Welcome to Prime 9, the countdown show that covers the very best in baseball, guaranteed to start arguments, not end them. This week, it's the 9 greatest shortstops of all time. Why 9? That's baseball. 9 players, 9 innings, Prime 9. You are about to meet the 9 greatest shortstops in the history of baseball.
A one-hop shot. Diving play by Ozzie. Long throw, you wouldn't believe.
Or so we say. But first, let's go over the ground rules. For starters, they had to have played 1,000 games at shortstop during the modern era, which we define as since 1901. And we didn't make our picks based on defensive skills alone.
What a play! And excuse me, he did not club that ball.
Our Prime 9 shortstops were also judged by their offense,
Jeter does it again.
their speed,
How about this guy, the way he can run?
their overall body of work.
He did it! Got number 500!
Baseball has witnessed many great shortstops over the years.
Oh, Hanley. So pretty, baby.
And you might be surprised by those who made our list, and those who didn't. So let's unveil our top 9 shortstops of all time, starting with number 9 on Prime 9. Luke Appling earns the honor at number 9. Don't know him? Well, he played more than 2,200 games for the White Sox.
Nobody plays over 2,000 games in a major league shortstop unless he could really field. So that tells you one thing, and his lifetime average, well over 300, tells you another.
Remember my dad talking about him and talking about the fact that there was no one who could stand at home plate and manipulate that bat around like he could. He was famous for fouling off balls. You know, if they ever kept the record, they say no one could ever have come close to Appling.
Luke was the first American League shortstop to win a batting title, and he didn't just win it.
And in fact, Luke Appling owns the record of highest batting average by a shortstop. He hit .388 one year.
He was such a great hitter. Whole aches and pains, as they used to call him. That was his nickname.
He was one of those guys who always walked into the clubhouse complaining that his legs hurt or his ankles hurt, and he couldn't play today. Jimmy Dykes, who was his longtime manager, always pat him on the back and said, "All right, Luke," he said, "just go out and play the first 2-3 innings, and if you don't feel well, it'll take you out." And of course, Luke always felt well. Once he got on the field, got his 2 hits, he wanted to stay in the game. I guess he was born with a little of the old man in him.
Fact is, Luke continued to amaze his fans as an old man. Consider this old-timers game in 1982, when he went deep off Hall of Famer Warren Spahn.
Deep to left field, way back there, home run, Luke Appling, 75 years old. Oh, you gotta love it.
That's Luke Appling, a batting coach in the Atlanta Braves organization. He put it to good work tonight with a home run.
Wait till the boys see that I work with. I tell them the pitch was 400 feet.
Luke's sensational senior moment might have brought him more notoriety than his actual career, for he toiled in relative obscurity.
So one of the reasons that Appling has disappeared from the view of all but the most wild-eyed baseball fanatic is that he just played with the White Sox all those years. And he never got national attention. There were no World Series appearances. But he was one of baseball's most notable shortstops for a long time.
You know, I can see him in the top 9. He was a good offensive force, a solid defender, an MVP in the National League. This guy had everything.
Our next shortstop also spent his entire career with just one team, the Reds' Barry Larkin.
He was the guy that you worried about. Not only could he beat you with a big base hit, he could beat you certainly with a big home run somewhere.
Looking up, gone. Home run, Barry Larkin.
In '95, I remember batting anywhere from 1st to 5th, or getting on base as a leadoff hitter, getting a runner over as a second hitter, getting a runner in, hitting 3rd, trying to get a sick ball like a drive, hitting 4th or hitting 5th. And I kind of ran the gamut. I kind of did all that stuff.
How many ways can he beat you? With the glove, with the leg, and tonight with the bat.
He could go the other way, he could hit and run, he could hit for power. He was one of those special players that when they talk about a five-tool player, that's what Barry was.
Here's a guy, Barry Larkin, had all the tools, but Barry did what he had to do to win. Very good and underrated defensive player.
Might get through. Nice play by Larkin to his left. He got him. That's a fine play. A much tougher play than it looked.
Defense was the most personal part of the game. It was something that I could totally control.
The middle, great stop by Larkin. Look at this. He got it.
The ball was hit to me out on the defensive end. It was a personal thing for me to be able to make that play.
And there's that acrobatic athleticism by Barry Larkin. Look at this play.
Look at this play. Just look at the play.
He was a shortstop that was very athletic, had a lot of range.
And a backhand stop by Larkin. Threw him out with a dandy play.
But having said that, he was still a guy that offensively was able to put up big numbers. And, you know, that wasn't a combination you saw very much.
He's the first 30-30 shortstop in the history of Major League Baseball.
Larkin also won a World Series title in addition to his many individual honors.
Larkin is one of the top shortstops in his day. He's got near Hall of Fame numbers, particularly if you look at the position of shortstop.
Barry Larkin, the 2000th hit of his big league career.
Barry Larkin won more Silver Sluggers than any other player at his position. He had to be pretty good.
When you look at Barry Larkin, he was the best, to me, the best overall shortstop in the National League in that era because of the fact that he could do so many things.
And as far as the shortstop conversation goes, you know, he kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. But for those of us that played against him, believe me, he's a guy that we don't forget, and we have an appreciation for what he was able to bring to the table.
Welcome back to Prime 9, featuring the greatest shortstops of all time. You've seen the 9th and 8th best. We now continue with number 7.
Well, I think Derek Jeter's got to be right up there as one of the top shortstops of all time. When you have a guy that has leadership qualities playing that position, it really makes him stand above a lot of other players.
He's the glue to the clubhouse. He's the captain, obviously, of the Yankees. And, you know, that's a quality that you don't see in many players.
Well, the truth is, not many players have 4 World Series rings, the most of any of our Prime 9 shortstops. And he's the only man to be named MVP of both the All-Star Game and the Fall Classic in the same year.
He's got great talent. He can run, he can throw, and he can hit. He's a hitting machine.
He will not be a guy that will hit you, 40, 50 home runs in a year, but he will hit you one, when it really counts.
Walk-off home run by Derek Jeter.
He has always been consistently excellent, and he seems to be at his best when it matters most.
It's in every aspect of his game. He will give you the clutch hit, when the game is on the line.
Derek Jeter comes through in the clutch, and the Yankees have tied the game in the 9th inning.
He will make the great play when it really counts.
Jeter, did he get it? Did he get it? He got it!
Everybody talks about intangibles.
That was an unbelievable give-up-your-body play.
He epitomizes the concept of intangibles.
Derek Jeter with one of the most unbelievable plays you will ever see by a shortstop.
Certainly the intangibles that Derek brings, there wouldn't be any other guy in the world that I want the ball hit to in a pressure situation because he's been there.
The outfield grass, got him!
Those are the things that don't really show up in books as far as stats is concerned.
He's a winner. That's what he is. He's a flat-out winner.
He's just a clean-cut kid that just gives 120% every time he goes out there.
That guy is a Hall of Famer because of plays like that.
He will be a future Hall of Famer.
Archie Vaughn has a reputation as an infielder, but he won the National League Batting Championship in 1935 with an average of 385.
Archie Vaughn is thought of today as a guy who had some freak show batting numbers, 385 in 1935. This was not a hitter's league in 1935. This is a fantastic number.
His first 10 years with the Pittsburgh Pirates, Joseph Floyd Archie Vaughn hit over 300. But that's just part of the story of this Hall of Famer, who owns the second highest lifetime batting average by a shortstop.
Archie Vaughn's numbers really stand out. He had a lifetime 318 batting average, hit a lot of home runs, had over 2,100 hits.
Vaughn may have been the best hitting of all the shortstops as a pure hitter.
Arky Vaughan's stance is another oddity because his body half faces the pitcher and feet are widely spread. But there's solid evidence that it's practical.
He was a superb shortstop, an all-around baseball player, was a great base runner by all accounts.
Arky Vaughan demonstrates another method, a straight-in bent leg slide. This is the best all-purpose slide.
But tragedy made Arky a forgotten man. It wasn't until 1985 that the Veterans Committee enshrined him in the Hall of Fame, 37 years after he retired and 33 years after his sudden death.
One of the reasons Vaughn disappeared from the scene was a tragic early death by drowning soon after he retired. It took many years and a lot of advocacy by baseball writers and historians to get Vaughn into the Hall of Fame.
He was just one of those guys that could do everything. He could field, he could hit, he could bunt, he could do everything.
Arky was certainly one of the 10 top shortstops of all time.
Welcome back to Prime 9, featuring the greatest shortstops of all time. Luke Apley and Barry Larkin were our picks at 9 and 8, respectively, followed by Derek Jeter and Pittsburgh's second-best shortstop ever, Arky Vaughan, which means it's time for number 5.
How dare you enter the magic rounds of Oz?
I'm Ozzie Smith, shortstop for the St. Louis Cardinals, otherwise known as the Wizard of Oz.
If there was anybody that I wanted to be like, it would be Ozzie. He had all the quickness, all the speed, all the coordination, all the flair.
Don't tell me. There's the Wizard. What a play, Ozzie Smith.
From San Diego to St. Louis, no one covered the diamond quite like Ozzie Smith.
Ozzie was objectively great, but he also had charisma, style, so distinctive.
Wasn't that something?
With Ozzie, not only was he fantastic to look at, he left tracks in the snow.
Can you believe it?
He really made it sexy to play shortstop.
Ozzie embodied both precision and flair, and those 13 gold gloves were all in a row.
Yes, sir.
Strike one on the batter. He gets a hit.
No, Ozzie Smith grabs it, throws to first. What a great play.
But you don't make the Prime 9 on your glove alone.
One of the things that Ozzie Smith needed to do to get to that next level, the Hall of Fame level, he had to learn how to hit.
He went from an offensive liability to basically a .275 hitter and had to be reckoned with at the plate.
Ozzie Smith with hit number 2,000, and he stands at third with a triple.
Ozzie finished his career with almost 2,500 hits, but his biggest one came during the 1985 postseason.
Smith corks one into right down the line. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. And the Cardinals have won the game on a home run by the Wizard.
So he became an important offensive player and obviously the greatest defensive player of his era at his position. And the combination of the two made him a cinch first ballot Hall of Famer.
From one Hall of Fame shortstop to another. Ernie Banks didn't have to become a better hitter. He already was one.
Ernie Banks was a tall, lean guy with great arms and hands.
He wasn't an outstanding shortstop like Ozzie Smith or other guys, and of course there are not many like that, but he was just a marvelous hitter. He had an easy swing, and he was really good at taking his pitch downtown.
It's a home run for Banks. Attaboy, Ernie.
It slowly began to come into my mind that what you're doing is very unique. I mean, you're a shortstop with power.
The first shortstop ever to hit 40 home runs in a season. Ernie did so 5 times in 6 years.
A familiar sight to Chicago fans. Ernie Banks hitting a home run.
Ernie was, at the time, part of a distinguished group of African-American ball players who collectively would have a profound impact on the game. But he would do something none of these legendary players ever accomplished when he won back-to-back Most Valuable Player awards.
To win the MVP award is really an amazing thing. I say that to myself. And on a team that finished 5th both years.
Ernie would hit 277 home runs as a shortstop. After changing positions, he reached a coveted milestone.
That's a fly ball. Beat the left back. That's it. Hey, he did it.
But perhaps Ernie is best remembered for his passion for the game.
I have to ask you your prediction for 1970.
Well, the Cubs will go and glow in 7-0.
So many people play the game with their heart and soul, but they can't enjoy it. Ernie Banks enjoyed every time, every at-bat, I'm sure, and every inning that he played.
My kind of town, Chicago is. The Wrigley Building, Chicago is. My kind of town that won't let you down.
Ernie played his entire career in Chicago, and Mr. Cub will always be remembered for his famous catchphrase.
Let's play two. That was his favorite line.
So, let's play two.
Forever enshrined in the friendly confines, every day for Ernie has been a good day.
Life to me is an amazing journey of accomplishing worthwhile things.
Long after I'm not here, I'll still be here. Thank you.
Much like Banks, our next shortstop was a trendsetter of his own.
On here, it says all-time shortstop home run king.
Ripped to left! Oh my goodness! He's done it again!
Shortstops were historically smaller, contact hitters, but Cal was big and hit for power too.
Well, I was always looked at as an offensive shortstop. And in some ways I was proud of that. But in some ways I took exception to it. No big person was really being considered at shortstop because it was felt that you needed a smaller guy that could cover ground.
Ground ball up the middle. Long run for the shortstop. Cal Ripken wheels, throws, in time. My God.
He made plays at 6'4.5".
What a play.
That would boggle your mind.
Oh, what a play by Ripken. Unbelievable.
His reach at 6'4" was tremendous.
Holy cow, what a play. For a big man, that was great.
To think that he could go out and play shortstop as well as he has played it. He looks like a tight end.
Of all the things that I've been given credit for, the one that is most meaningful is my success at shortstop as a big guy kind of opened the doors for other big shortstops.
Cal did help pave the way for taller shortstops that followed, but first, he had to blaze a trail at short for himself.
Cal originally started out as a third baseman. It was Earl Weaver who made the shift and moved him over the short.
And a shot to Cal Ripken, fires across, he got it.
They made the right decision, and he became an everyday player.
Cal's got it.
Literally, an everyday player.
And he'd play the bulk of his amazing streak at the physically demanding position of shortstop.
And let it be said that number 8, Cal Ripken Jr., has reached the unreachable star.
Nobody is going to do that again. It's ridiculous. I say this affectionately, he's a freak.
We now return to Prime 9, where this week we're focusing on the greatest shortstops in the history of baseball. Our shortstops thus far have demonstrated acrobatic fielding skills, potent bats, and often plenty of speed. Now it's time for the very best. Two men who we consider the greatest shortstops of all time. We begin with number 2. Our second best shortstop is A-Rod.
Alex Rodriguez, when you think of him, number one, I think of the young kid that came up with Seattle, and you were just floored at what he was able to do on a baseball field.
Oh, what a monster shot by Alex Rodriguez.
A-Rod is another guy that brought the offensive firepower, probably even more so than Cal Ripken, to shortstop.
It's my boy. It's my son.
A-Rod, in many ways, was undervalued defensively like I was, because he had a style that made things look really easy.
Much like Ripken, the 6'3" Rodriguez brought a fluid grace to shortstop that belied his size.
Great stop by Alex Rodriguez, who throws him out. My, oh, my.
And along with the Yankees' Derek Jeter and Boston's Nomar Garciaparra, A-Rod stood tall amongst his fellow superstar shortstops of the day. But A-Rod would soon rise above the rest.
One of a kind. I mean, how many home runs did he hit as a shortstop?
344 to be precise. And in 1996, his .358 average led the major leagues. In addition, A-Rod stole 176 bases while at short.
No through, he has 40 stolen bases.
And became a member of an exclusive club.
He did it! One of only 3 players in Major League history to join the 40-40 club.
Alex joined another new club in 2001, the Texas Rangers, where he spent his final 3 years at shortstop.
What a spectacular catch by shortstop Alex Rodriguez.
He won 2 Gold Gloves there and exploded at the plate.
Swinging a high fly ball, hit deep to right, and it's gone. Alex Rodriguez with his 3rd home run of the night.
For him to put up those kind of numbers, play shortstop every single day, he didn't miss a game. He took 1 day off his whole time in Texas. It's pretty remarkable what he accomplished in his years there.
Come 2004, Alex joined the Yankees. And since they already had an all-star shortstop, he moved to third base.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In 2007, Alex reached a milestone in historic fashion.
The pitch swung on and high in the air down the left field line. This is fair. It could be. It could be. He's done it. Alex Rodriguez has made Major League Baseball history, the youngest player ever to hit 500 home runs.
A-Rod checks in as our second best shortstop. Had he remained at short, he might have been number 1.
If A-Rod never plays shortstop again, he'll still be regarded as one of the great shortstops of all time.
But that honor belongs to the Flying Dutchman, Pittsburgh's legendary shortstop, Hannes Wagner.
Hannes Wagner is the only player who began his career before 1900, who is still regarded by most baseball historians as the greatest player ever at his position.
Powerful throwing arm, quickness, agility. This guy moved with ease and grace on the ball field, led the league in stolen bases many times.
Wagner won 8 batting titles, and he batted 300 or over for 17 straight years.
Hannes Wagner was the whole package. He was the 5-tool player. He was the Willie Mays at shortstop. You may argue there were better players, but I think it's tough to argue there were better all-around shortstops.
And Wagner rose to the occasion when it mattered most, like in the 1909 World Series.
Wagner outperformed Cobb during that World Series, out-hitting him by over 100 points. Wagner hit 333. Wagner had 6 stolen bases, and the Pirates, Wagner's Pirates, went on to win the series in 7 games.
Throughout the first 2 decades of the 20th century, Wagner made his case as one of the greatest players ever. And his achievements during that time still resonate today.
This man's accomplishments and abilities have stood the test of time for well over 100 years.
He was one of the 5 original members of the Baseball Hall of Fame and had as many votes as Babe Ruth. I never saw him play, obviously, but if he was considered to be at that level, then I can't imagine there's been anybody who's come along subsequently who can compete with him.
Anybody who ever saw him play would swear that nobody ever played the game better than Hannes Wagner.
One short stop before we go. Hannes Wagner won 7 of his 8 batting titles as a shortstop. Only 7 shortstops not named Hannes finished with the league's highest batting average in more than a century. And only 2 have done it more than once, Luke Appling and Nomar Garciaparra. But watch out, there's a new generation of shortstops.
Reyes with his 2nd triple of the day.
And one of them could win a batting title in the very near future.
This ball's out of here.
And so are we. Thanks for watching. That's our Prime 9. What's yours?